to Iceland. So while I read chapter 38 today, I want you to just relax, listen, and enjoy this beautiful picture of a lagoon in Iceland. Here we go, chapter 38. Curfew was approaching, which brought on another fight with Mama. Fritz and I wanted to keep working. With only 2 days left before he would be expected to report for military duty, our time crunch was even worse than ever. If my father was on the other side, then we could connect with him tonight and be free. And what if it's not him? Mama asked. Well, I didn't dare to think about that. If it wasn't him, then our efforts were doomed. No, we were doomed. We won't get much farther tonight, Mama said. We're all exhausted, and it's important for whoever's listening in our apartment to hear your voices. And besides, if there's bad news coming our way, I'd rather they find our tunnel while we're not here. Mama was right about everything, especially that we were exhausted. We were too tired, in fact, to put up any reasonable protest for staying. So we put down our tools and followed her home. In my bedroom that night, I was so excited about what might be in the other tunnel that I was sure I would never go to sleep. But within only seconds, sleep found me anyway. I awoke early and deliberately made plenty of noise so that everyone else would wake up too. We had a quick breakfast, chatting cheerfully the entire time about how excited we were for Fritz to report to the military service the next day, and about our confidence that once the state saw how well he served, Mama would surely be restored to her former job. They were lies, and I was tired of always having to lie. As soon as we felt it was appropriate, we ventured back onto the street. In our anticipation to reach the tunnel, we started down the sidewalk too quickly and bumped straight into Frau Eberhardt. The the dour woman clearly wasn't in a good mood this morning. She scowled when she saw us in the work clothes and brushed herself off, even though I was sure we hadn't even gotten her dirty. I excused their poor manners while you were out of town, Frau Eberhardt told my mother, but I thought they'd have improved again when you returned, not worsened. You bumped into them, my mother snapped. You should be the one apologizing. Frau Eberhardt straightened herself up and evaluated my mother's appearance. I thought you were a church going lady, but it seems you have more important plans today. Mom and I looked at each other. With so much else to think about, none of us had remembered today was a Sunday. Mama attempted to excuse it with a joke. Well, Frau Eberhardt, I suppose some days the Lord wants us in his house, and some days he wants us to go about his work. Which are you choosing? Frau Eberhardt reacted by wrinkling her nose as if we smelled. Maybe we did. And the Lord's work is gardening? Did your daughter mention that she promised me some of the harvest from the garden? She seemed to think it might encourage me to keep quiet in case I saw anything suspicious. Mama smiled at Fritz and me. Why don't you two go on ahead? We have to talk, mother to mother. Fritz grabbed my arm and pulled me off with him. By the time I looked back, they were already engaged in what looked like a very tense conversation. Something had changed in Mama over the last few days. She looked tired and worried, just as we all did. But she seemed younger and stronger too, as if digging the tunnel had reclaimed the spirit of who she used to be. Frau Eberhardt was right, I said. I did sort of bribe her. Yeah, just let Mother work it out, Fritz said. Our job is to dig. After we made it into the shelter, Fritz and I had the luxury of deciding what to do about the second tunnel without Mama getting a vote. We knew what she would have wanted, and that once she made up her mind, the decision would be final. For Mama, any risk was too much risk. But Fritz thought Mama had some good points last night. Other families have escaped through tunnels, he said. If the Stasi have gone to such efforts to barricade the ground above us, why wouldn't they do it below us as well? I disagreed. Well, why didn't Officer Mueller warn us then? Officer Mueller never said he was on our side. Fritz was right about that. If anything, Mueller had promised just the opposite, that if we were discovered, he would be there for our arrest. I listened again with my ear pressed against the tunnel wall, but this time there were no sounds. Either the other tunnel had moved farther away from us, or else nobody was in there digging right now. I grabbed the shovel and began digging in that direction. Well, whatever's ahead of us, we can't quit now, I said. Maybe it's the Stasi, but I fear even more is that it might be Papa, and it's Papa's tunnel. So Fritz relented and worked with me. We had to move carefully because of the pipes overhead, and there were large rocks in front of us, but at least we were digging again. Mama joined us soon after, and when we asked what had taken so long, she said, Frau Eberhardt believes you two are up to something, and I tried to convince her otherwise, but she insisted I was in denial. Children today are more slippery than they used to be. A lazy mother can miss the signs, Mama huffed. She sits outside all day like a lump, and then she accuses me of laziness? I shrugged. You're not lazy, but in all this mud, I can believe that I am quite slippery. Mama laughed and then grew serious again when she said, so our conversation moved to Herr Krause's death. She's upset about it, just like the rest of us. She admitted that she was the one who had turned him in, but also insists she had no idea that they would do that to him. I told her to go inside and stop asking so many questions, or there would be more deaths. Does she suspect about our tunnel? Fritz asked. I don't think so, but she didn't go inside either. Shh, quiet down, I hissed. Shh. I paused from digging and pressed my ear against the dirt. The sounds in the other tunnel had begun, and they were closer than ever. It was impossible to know exactly what I was, but I was sure whoever was on the other side must be within an arm's length of us. Then, very high up, a stick poked sideways through the dirt. It was no rounder than an earthworm, but there was lantern light on the other side, far more light than what we had allowed ourselves here. None of us breathed. The stick went forward and wiggled as if the person on the other end was feeling for more dirt or some rock. Feeling nothing, it was withdrawn, and then more focused beam of flashlight came through. Still, we said nothing and we didn't move anymore. We had been discovered, but by whom? Then, in a low voice I well remembered from my childhood, someone sang an even more familiar tune. They dig and they rake and they sing a song. It was Papa.